Book 5, Canto 3, The Legend of Artegall. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alan Brown, Houston. The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser. Book 5, The Legend of Artegall. Canto 3. The spousals of fair Florimel, where tourney many knights. There braggadocio is uncased in all the ladies' sights. After long storms and tempests overblown, the sun at length his joyous face doth clear. So when as Fortune all her spight hath shown, some blissful hours at last must needs appear. Else should afflicted wights oft times despair. So comes it now to Florimel by turn, after long sorrows suffered whileere, in which captived she many months did mourn, to taste of joy, and to wont pleasures to return. Who being freed from Proteus' cruel band by Marinell, was unto him affied, and by him brought again to Faerie land, where he her spoused, and made his joyous bride. The time and place was blazed far and wide, and solemn feasts and justs ordained therefore, to which there did resort from every side of lords and ladies infinite great store. Ne any knight was absent that brave courage bore, to tell the glory of the feast that day, the goodly service, the deviceful sights, the bridegroom's state, the bride's most rich array, the pride of ladies, and the worth of knights. The royal banquets and the rare delights were work fit for an herald, not for me, but for so much as to my lot here lights, that with this present treatise doth agree, true virtue to advance, shall here recounted be. When all men had with full satiety of meats and drinks their appetites suffized, to deeds of arms and proof of chivalry they gan themselves address, full rich aguised, as each one had his furnitures devised. And first of all issued Sir Marinell, and with him 6 knights more, which enterprised to challenge all in right of Florimel, and to maintain that she all others did excell. The first of them was hight Sir Oramont, a noble knight, and tried in hard assays. The second had to name Sir Bellisant, but second unto none in prowess praise. The third was Brunel, famous in his days. The fourth a Castor, of exceeding might. The fifth Armedon, skilled in lovely lays. The sixth was Lansac, a redoubted knight. All 6 well seen in arms, and proved in many a fight. And them against came all that list to just, from every coast and country under sun. None was debarred, but all had leave that lust. The trumpet sound, then all together run. Full many deeds of arms that day were done, and many knights unhorsed, and many wounded, as fortune fell, yet little lost or won. For all that day the greatest praise redounded to Marinell, whose name the heralds loud resounded. The second day, so soon as morrow light appeared in heaven, into the field they came, and there all day continued cruel fight, with divers fortune fit for such a game, in which all strove with peril to win fame. Yet whether side was victor, note be guessed. But at the last the trumpets did proclaim that Marinell that day deserved best. So they disparted were, and all men went to rest. The third day came, that should due trial lend of all the rest. And then this warlike crew together met, of all to make an end. There Marinell great deeds of arms did shew, and through the thickest like a lion flew, rashing off helms and riving plates asunder, that every one his donger did eschew. So terribly his dreadful strokes did thunder, That all men stood amazed, and at his might did wonder. But what on earth can alwayes happy stand? The greater prowess greater perils find. So far he passed amongst his enemies band, That they have him enclosed so behind, As by no meanes he can himself outwind. And now perforce they have him prisoner taken, And now they do with captive bands him bind, And now they lead him thence of all forsaken, Unless some succour had in time him overtaken. It fortuned, whilst they were thus ill beset, Sir Artegall into the tilt-yard came, With Braggadochio, whom he lately met upon the way, With that his snowy dame. Where when he understood by common fame What evil hap to Marinell betid, He much was moved at so unworthy shame, And straight that boaster prayd, with whom he rid, To change his shield with him, to be the better hid. So forth he went, and soon them overhent, Where they were leading Marinell away, Whom he affayled with dreadless hardiment, And forced the burden of their prize to stay. They were 100 knights of that array, Of which the one half upon himself did set, The other ftayed behind to guard the prey. But he ere long the former 50 bet, And from the other 50 soon the prisoner fet. So back he brought Sir Marinell againe, Whom having quickly arm'd againe anew, They both together joyned might and maine, To set afrefh on all the other crew, Whom with fore havocke soon they overthrew, And chaced quite out of the field, that none Against them durft his head to peril shew. So were they left lords of the field alone, So Marinell by him was rescued from his fone. Which when he had performed, then back againe To Braggadochio did his shield reftore, Who all this while behind him did remaine, Keeping there clofe with him in precious ftore, That his falfe lady, as ye heard afore. Then did the trumpets sound, and the judges rofe, And all thefe knights, which that day armour bore, Came to the open hall to listen, whofe The honour of the prize should be adjudged by thofe. And thither alfo came in open fight Faire Florimell into the common hall, To greet his guerdon unto every knight, And beft to him, to whom the beft fhould fall. Then for that ftranger knight they loud did call, To whom that day they should the guerlond yield. Who came not forth, but for Sir Artegall came Braggadochio, and did shew his shield, Which bore the funne broad blazed in a golden field. The fight whereof did all with gladnefle fill, So unto him did they addeeme the prize Of all that triumph. Then the trumpets fhrill Don Braggadochio's name refounded thrice, So courage lent a cloke to cowardice. And then to him came faireft Florimell, And goodly gan to greet his brave emprize, And 1000 thanks him yield, that had so well Approved that day, that she all others did excell. To whom the boafter, that all knights did blot, With proud difdaine did scornfull anfwere make, That what he did that day, he did it not For her, but for his own deare ladies fake, Whom on his peril he did undertake, Both her and eke all others to excell. And further did uncomely fpeeches crake, Much did his words the gentle lady quell, And turned afide for fhame to heare what he did tell. Then forth he brought his snowy Florimell, Whom Trompart had in keeping there befide, Covered from peoples gazement with a veile, Whom when discovered they had throughly eyde, With great amazement they were ftupefide, And faid, that furely Florimell it was. For if it were not Florimell fo tride, That Florimell herfelfe fhe then did pas, So feeble fkill of perfect things the vulgar has. Which when as Marinell beheld likewise, he was therewith exceedingly dismayed, ne wist he what to think, or to devise. But like as one, whom fiends had made afraid, he long astonished stood, ne aught he said, ne aught he did, but with fast fixed eyes he gazed still upon that snowy maid, whom ever as he did the more avise, the more to be true Florimell he did surmise. As when two suns appear in the azure sky, mounted in Phoebus' chariot fiery bright, both darting forth fair beames to each man's eye, and both adorned with lamps of flaming light, all that behold so strange prodigious sight, not knowing nature's work, nor what to weene, are rapt with wonder and with rare affright. So stood Sir Marinell, when he had seen the semblant of this false by his fair beauties Queene. All which when Artegall, who all this while stood in the preace close covered, well adviewed, and saw that boasters pride and graceless guile, he could no longer bear, but forth issued, and unto all himself there open shewed, and to the boaster said, Thou losel base, that hast with borrowed plumes thyself endewed, and others worth with leasings dost deface, when they are all restored, thou shalt rest in disgrace. That shield which thou dost bear, was it indeed, which this day's honour saved to Marinell, but not that arm, nor thou the man I reed, which didst that service unto Florimell. For proof shew forth thy sword, and let it tell what strokes, what dreadful store it stirred this day, or shew the wounds which unto thee befell, or shew the sweat with which thou didst sway so sharp a battle, that so many did dismay. But this the sword which brought those cruel stounds, and this the arm the which that shield did bear, and these the signs, so shewed forth his wounds, by which that glory gotten doth appear. As for this lady which he sheweth here, is not, I wager, Florimell at all, but some fair Franian fit for such a fear, and by misfortune in his hand did fall, for proof whereof he bade them Florimell forth call. So forth the noble lady was ybrought, adorned with honour and all comely grace, whereto her bashful shamefacedness ywrought a great increase in her fair blushing face, as roses did with lilies interlace. For of those words, the which that boaster threw, she inly yet conceived great disgrace, whom when as all the people such did view, they shouted loud, and signes of gladness all did shew. Then did he set her by that snowy one, like the true saint beside the image set, of both their beauties to make paragon, and trial, whether should the honour get. Straightway, so soon as both together met, the enchanted damsel vanished into naught. Her snowy substance melted as with heat, ne of that goodly hue remained aught, but the empty girdle which about her waist was wrought. As when the daughter of Thaumantes fair hath in a watery cloud displayed wide her goodly bow, which paints the liquid air, that all men wonder at her colours pride. All suddenly, ere one can look aside, the glorious picture vanisheth away, ne any token doth thereof abide. So did this lady's goodly form decay, and into nothing go, ere one could it bewray. Which when as all that present were beheld, they stricken were with great astonishment, and their faint hearts with senseless horror quelled, to see the thing that seemed so excellent, so stolen from their fancies wonderment, that what of it became none understood. And Braggadocchio's self with dreariment so daunted was in his despairing mood, that like a lifeless corse immovable he stood. But Artegall, that golden belt uptook, the which of all her spoile was onely left, which was not hers, as many it mistook, but Florimel's own girdle, from her reft, while she was flying, like a weary weft, from that foul monster, which did her compell to perils great, which he unbuckling eft presented to the fairest Florimel, who round about her tender waist it fitted well. Full many ladies often had assayed about their middles that fair belt to knit, and many a one, supposed to be a maid, yet it to none of their loins would fit, till Florimel about her fastened it. Such power it had, that to no woman's waist by any skill or labour it would fit, unless that she were continent and chaste, but it would loose or break, that many had disgraced. Whilst thus they busied were bout Florimel, and boastful braggadocio to defame, Sir Guyon, as by fortune then befell, forth from the thickest press of people came, his own good steed, which he had stol'n, to claim, and the one hand seizing on his golden bit, with the other drew his sword, for with the same he meant the thief there deadly to have smit, and had he not been held, he naught had failed of it. Thereof great hurly-burly moved was throughout the hall for that same warlike horse, for braggadocio would not let him pass, and Guyon would him all gates have perforce, or it approve upon his carrion course. Which troublous stir when Artegall perceived, he nigh them drew to stay the avengers force, and gan enquire how was that steed bereaved, whether by might extort, or else by sleight deceived. Who all that piteous story which befell about that woeful couple, which were slain, and their young bloody babe, to him gan tell, with whom whiles he did in the wood remain. His horse purloined was by subtle train, for which he challenged the thief to fight, but he for naught could him thereto constrain, for as the death he hated such despite, and rather had to lose than try in armes his right. Which Artegall well hearing, though no more by law of armes there need one's right to try, as was the wont of warlike knights of yore, then that his foe should him the field deny, yet further right by tokens to descry, he asked, what privy tokens he did bear. If that, said Guyon, may you satisfy, within his mouth a black spot doth appear, shaped like a horse's shoe, who list to seek it there. Whereof to make due trial, one did take the horse in hand, within his mouth to look, but with his heels so sorely he him strake, that all his ribs he quite in pieces broke, that never word from that day forth he spoke. Another that would seem to have more wit, him by the bright embroidered headstall took, but by the shoulder him so sore he bit, that he him maimed quite, and all his shoulder split. Nay, he his mouth would open unto wight, until that Guyon self unto him spake, and called Brigador, so was he hight, whose voice so soon as he did undertake, eftsoons he stood as still as any stake, and suffered all his secret mark to see. And when as he him named, for joy he brake his bands, and followed him with gladful glee, and frisked, and flung aloft, and louted low on knee. Thereby Sir Artegall did plain areed, that unto him the horse belonged, and said, Lo there, Sir Guyon, take to you the steed, as he with golden saddle is arrayed, and let that losel, plainly now displayed, hence fare on foot, till he an horse have gained. But the proud boaster gan his doom upbraid, and him reviled, and rated, and disdained, that judgment so unjust against him had ordained. Much was the knight incensed with his lewd word, to have revenged that his villainy, and thrice did lay his hand upon his sword, to have him slain or dearly done aby. But Guyon did his choler pacify, saying, Sir Knight, it would dishonour be to you, that are our judge of equity, to wreak your wrath on such a carle as he. It's punishment enough, that all his shame do see. So did he mitigate Sir Artegall, but Talus by the back the boaster hent, and drawing him out of the open hall, upon him did inflict this punishment. First he his beard did shave, and foully shent, then from him reft his shield, and it renverst, and blotted out his armes with falsehood blent, and himself baffled, and his armes unhearst, and broke his sword in twain, and all his armour spurst. The whiles his guileful groom was fled away, but vain it was to think from him to fly, who overtaking him did disarray, and all his face deformed with infamy, and out of court him scourged openly. So ought all faitors that true knighthood shame, and armes dishonour with base villainy, from all brave knights be banished with defame, for oft their lewdness blotteth good deserts with blame. Now when these counterfeits were thus uncased, out of the foresight of their forgery, and in the sight of all men clean disgraced, all gan to jest and gibe full merrily at the remembrance of their knavery. Ladies can laugh at ladies, knights at knights, to think with how great vaunt of bravery he them abused through his subtle sleights, and what a glorious shew he made in all their sights. There leave we them in pleasure and repast, spending their joyous days and gladful nights, and taking usury of time forepast, with all dear delicies and rare delights, fit for such ladies and such lovely knights. And turn we here to this fair furrowes end our weary yokes, to gether fresher sprites, that when as time to Artegall shall tend, we on his first adventure may him forward send. End of Canto 3, Book 5. The Legend of Artegall.